All right, welcome, or I guess I'm the new one. Welcome to myself, right? I'm Rochelle Franz, and I am a professor at the University of Central Oklahoma. And I'm coming today kind of with two hats. So as a person at UCO, I teach future physical education and health majors in our College of Education there. I also serve on our OHIP, the Oklahoma Health Improvement Plan Committee, and I work as a co-chair of the Coordinated School Health Work Group. So part of that is, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the WSC model, and we'll get into that in a minute. I wanted to let you know, though, OHIP, our work group has really done a lot of work over the last 12 to 18 months in putting together just some common terms and just some information to share with others about coordinated school health. Many of you are probably familiar with that. I know that in a room like this, most of you are concerned about health. That's why you're here. But a lot of our community members, our staff, our schools, don't really understand coordinated school health. And so when we bring in the WSC model that I'll talk a little bit about today, it's like, where do we even start? So OHIP has done a really great job. I think our team has done some really cool things of offering some different presentations. So I'm going to share the presentation we created just for this short overview about WSC, what it is. I will tell you just a little bit of personal information just because I think it makes sense to kind of get who is speaking with you, and I like to know the audience as well. I've been at UCO for 10 years. Before that, I served in the school as a PE health teacher in Kansas and in Oklahoma. I'm an Okie. My husband just moved me away for a year, and then we came back. I actually taught a year in Virginia, which was really was right outside of Washington, D.C., and I'll tell you, it was a great experience for me. We moved there just short term while I was pregnant, but I taught just kind of I just got an email that said, would you be interested in filling in a couple hours a day for PE? I was like, sure, why not? That sounds fun. Really learned a lot about what states can do when they require health education, when they require physical education. And so I've seen kind of a little bit of difference in the states that I've been in. But I'm also a mom. I have 2 kids that are in elementary school. So I think that brings a whole new passion behind what I love about educating and just being a proponent for healthy children. And then my husband is a middle school principal. So education and health is our life. And I say that because a lot of what we talk about, I know sometimes sounds like, that's really nice for you, you're not running a school. But my husband does oversee a school. So I know the things that y'all are sharing about some of the the challenges that you face in our schools today. So I'm not oblivious to that, and we can talk a little bit about that. I want to be very open and upfront. But I'm also very excited about what's going on in our state. We have a long way to go to get healthy kids, right? Healthy kids, healthy adults, a healthy community. But I do think we're on the right track, and I'm really hopeful. So let's get started. These are our partners with OHIP, some really great players at the table. And just kind of as a side note, if you're really passionate and interested in coordinated school health, the WSC model, what we're talking about, come be part of our team. It's a volunteer basis. We meet every 2 or 3 months. Sharon's on that committee with us. And it's a great committee. We get stuff done, like at the committee meetings and between committee meetings and all that. So we're going to talk about the WSC model. We're just going to say it's WSC because I don't want to say whole school, whole community, whole child model every single time that I say it. How many of you are familiar? And I know there's people outside of here. How many of you have heard of WSC? Just like even the name. Raise your hands. So just a couple, like it sounds a little familiar. Okay, what about coordinated school health? Does that sound, anybody? Coordinated school health? No. Oh, good. Fresh eyes, fresh ears. This is good. Okay, so I could tell you all the wrong stuff and you wouldn't even know. No, I won't. So the whole school, whole child, the WSC model, let's go with that, really is an ecological view to learning and health. And we're going to watch, hopefully, a video here in just a second that does a great job of just putting it in 2 minutes. This is what WSC is. But one of the really cool things that I think is so exciting about WSC is that for a long time, we've had health and well-being kind of over here, right? So if you're the health people, through the state or a nurse or just a health professional like I am, then you're here. And then there's like academic and learning over here, right? So kids, we're going to do school stuff, and then there's health stuff. And so WSC has said, why are we doing this? Why are we separated? So WSC has really said health and well-being, academic and learning, all really should be together and focused around the child. So it's really a great thing. Many of your schools are doing it already. They just may not know it because they're like, I didn't know what that was called. You know, if you're supporting the Smart Snack rules, or you're doing things like having a birthday party once every 3 months and just doing something like that, that's supporting WSC and the model and the framework. So let's see if we can watch the video, and if not, then I'll put it together for us.
For too long, health and well-being have been put into a silo, kept both logistically and philosophically separate from education and learning. Yet we know that both health and education affect individuals and society, as well as the economy. Health and education must work together whenever possible, and schools are a perfect setting for this collaboration. In 2013, ASCD and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention convened a group of leaders to strengthen a unified and collaborative approach to learning and health. The result is the whole school, whole community, whole child model. This new model combines and builds on elements of the traditional coordinated school health model and ASCD's Whole Child initiative. It responds to the call for greater alignment, integration, and collaboration between health and education. The model expands the components to 10, placing greater emphasis on the psychosocial and physical environment and highlighting the ever-increasing expanded roles that community agencies and families must play. The new model also outlines how the school, staff, and students are part of the local community. While the school may be a hub, it remains a focal reflection of its community. The components surround the tenets of a whole child approach to education, those that ensure that each child is healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. Finally, the new model returns attention to the ultimate focus of the two sectors, the child. Join us in ensuring a collaborative approach to learning and health for each child, in each school, and in each community.
All right. So that's a quick overview. Let me get us back. Maybe. Is that good? All right. We're good? Okay. All right. All right, so let me go to the next slide, maybe. Is it working?
You may need to click inside the
Yeah.
window. It may still be on
Okay, let's just do this.
just click anywhere in that window.
Yeah. Well, I'm clicking. Okay, we'll get that going. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, okay, let's just talk about the video for a second. What does that mean to you? When it looks like we're bringing these together, what do you think that means for your schools and your communities? Somebody just, what comes off of your mind when you hear that or you saw the video?
Okay.
Easier to work with. Easier to work with? Okay, yeah. Makes sense. You're all kind of going for the same common goal. I mean, we really are, right? We're there for the kids. You do this because you love children and you want to see them be productive, healthy, active adults, right? Anything else that you thought about the video? It's a good idea. You think it's something that we've already tried? Like, what do you think about that? Y'all, they're like my students when I don't want to answer questions. Like, don't look at the teacher. Don't look at the teacher. Yeah. Nothing? Okay, we'll just move on. So a couple of things. Coordinated school health has been around for quite a while. And coordinated school health is really the kind of the framework that's built, that WSC is built on. There's a couple of differences. So what has happened is coordinated school health started with 8 components. Same thing, we're really looking at how do we coordinate, right, all the things going on in a school and around the school and the community with the staff, with the parents, with the students, with faculty, all those things. How do we coordinate that to help children be better learners? So coordinated school health had 8 components. WSC just takes that and goes a little bit further. So if you'll see, healthy and safe school environment now has become school and emotional climate, and that is its own entity. And we'll talk a little bit about what's going on there. We've heard a lot about, with the bullying problem that we have and some of the challenges with that. That is stuff that goes with the social and emotional climate. We've also separated out now the physical environment. A good friend of mine does a lot of research with this and looking at things like, safe routes to schools or what is actually happening inside and outside of the school for the kids. That promotes learning, good or bad, right? And then the other thing is family and community involvement with coordinated school health was one kind of component, and they've taken that and made community involvement a piece and then also family engagement. So we hear a lot from schools that family engagement is that piece, right? Like, gosh, if we could have families involved and engaged, what a great thing could happen. I know many of the schools that are having great successes right now, they will give that a lot of credit. We have families and community involvement that helps out a lot. So when we're talking about healthy kids, right, or healthy people, actually, we have to look a little bit at just what does it mean for academics, right? Because that's the bottom line. Kids come to school to learn. So it is academic. We know that, and this is with the active living research, kids who are healthy are going to be better learners, just overall. They're going to concentrate better in the classroom. They have improved health scores on standardized tests, increased attention. We also hear from principals, right, that there's decreased trouble and management problems in the classroom. So this just shows you a little bit. It's just a picture. Many of you have probably seen it. Enhanced brain functioning after just 20 minutes of walking or moving, right? This is our brain on the left side after sitting quietly. So color is good on a brain image, right? That means that's where those neurons are interacting, the neurotransmitters are firing and connecting, and you're getting that learning and deep learning. And so this is brain after a 20-minute walk. So think about recess. I know a lot of schools have gone to, let's have lunch, right? Where we'll have recess before lunch, and maybe they have a track or they have a big field, and kids just get to walk instead of just sitting on a phone, right? That kind of happens more middle school, maybe high school, but just keeping kids moved. That's all part of the WSCC model, just keeping kids active and moving. Decreased school absences is another thing. Depending on where you are and the type of culture you have at your school, that can really be a problem. If the kids aren't coming to school, then they're missing learning opportunities with the qualified staff that you have. So that's also a byproduct of just a healthy student. So when we're looking at the WSCC model, really it's a collaboration, like I said, between health and learning, academics, and all of those things. It's not a program. So I'm not here saying, guess what? You get to adopt a program, take it back to your schools and your teachers, because they'll be so excited if you tell them they need to do something else, right? No, they will no, we're not doing that. So I get it. I was a teacher, and every time a new program, you're like, okay, where am I going to fit that in? How am I going to have the energy and the brain space? This is not that. This is just putting your puzzle pieces together to see what's happening. So some of you are doing all different 10 components. You may have pieces of all of that. You may be doing a great thing that maybe your counselor's doing an anti-bullying campaign and lessons, and then you have great things going on inside of the cafeteria and outside of the cafeteria, and your parents are involved in, maybe Watchdogs. That's a cool program where dads come in and kind of stand at the front of the school and welcome kids, and it's a safety enhancement. That's a physical environment piece. So a lot of these great things are happening. With things like the USDA and other programs, we're kind of gently forced, or maybe not gently, but we are encouraged now to make our schools healthy places. So I just always tell people, you're doing great things, so don't be overwhelmed with, oh no. What's really great too is our Certified Healthy Schools program, and then also with that, the TSET incentive grants really support WSCC and are funneled right through that. So if you're a Certified Healthy School, for sure if you're in that excellence category, you're doing this stuff. But what we found is as you talk about it and you share the same language among parents, staff, administration, communities, that things start to make sense, and you're not doing something over here, something over here, and something over here, but it all becomes easier because you're now working together and making it kind of cohesive, if that makes sense. So we're just really quickly, health and education, this is probably preaching to the choir. It impacts us on individual levels, right? The quality of life long term, but for your students, if you're a teacher, for that student that has seat time in your classroom, quality of life is improved if they're a healthy student. Also for society, right? If there's active lifestyles and you're teaching kids about the importance of that, not only what it does in their lives currently, but what it does as they become active adults. I know as teaching college students, I tell them all the time, like, you get to make a change now and carry that change forward. I love teaching them because sometimes I feel like they can go, well, this is just the way it is, but they really get to make an impact in society. If they choose to be active young adults now, it's more likely they're going to be active older adults as years go by, and that impacts our society. Obviously, it has an impact for the economy, right? Active adults cost less money, and because it's for health. So we want a healthy, productive workforce, right? I love Oklahoma. Born and raised here, want to stay here forever. I would love Oklahoma to be healthy. Just, it's going to save us money. There's just so many great things that go with that. So it makes sense that schools are the place where we're going to talk about WSC because 95% of the U.S. children attend school, right? I don't want to say just schools during the 8 to 3 kind of day, but also we have some really great things going on now with before school and after school programs as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the WSC model. I know this isn't really large. You can get this through the CDC's website. Also ASCD, if you're a principal in administration, you might know that site a little bit better. Both of those house this information and have some really, really great resources to share with you. But one of the things, again, when we're looking at the kid in the middle, right, the child's in the middle, have any of you seen this right here, the ASCD, like the safe, healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged? Does that look familiar to you? No? So this is what the ASCD has had for a while, right? So this is not new. This is what's happening, right? We're going to have healthy as part of that. But I think what we did in the past is say, yeah, we promote healthy kids, and then we just moved on to now let's talk about how we promote safe kids or how we promote engaged kids. But we didn't really talk about health because that was the health people's job, right? So this is really saying this is just what we've always been doing. Right around here where you can't see are policy, procedures, and practices. So a wellness policy, just what you've been talking about today, is a great thing because it supports what is already happening in the school, right? Nobody wants to come in and say, well, the policy said to do it this way. But if you gather champions, parents, even students, I'm always a proponent of have students sit on a healthy and fits or a wellness committee, right? They have really great ideas, and they're in the school all day. So they probably see things that you don't see, especially from an adult perspective. Ask them their opinion. Well, what do you think about not having cupcakes ever? I mean, they're probably going to be like, well, that stinks, right? Okay, but what if we say no more cupcakes, right? This is what I say at my house. Sorry, we're not having donuts every day for breakfast, so I'll let you have some choices. You can have this or you can have this. Well, they usually choose, and it's kind of a win-win. I only give them 2 choices that I'm going to be okay with. Donuts is not one of them every day, right? So if you ask students those kind of things, the same with parents. Earlier, I know for some of you that aren't in this room, there was a conversation right before I came up about, well, what do you do if parents aren't really buying into like whatever it is? They're bringing Chick-fil-A or they're bringing the cupcakes or anything like that. I think it's one of those things is sometimes parents just don't know better. I mean, I'm a parent and I'm a health professional, but I took my kids Chick-fil-A. My husband took my daughter yesterday because it was her birthday, and I'm like, well, good grief, I'm supposed to be a role model, and we delivered Chick-fil-A to her school, right? I mean, she had water and some fruit, but really it's still the Chick-fil-A bag. But what I'm saying is sometimes it's just a conversation to say, did you kind of know that this is going on, that is an extra 10,000 calories in your child's, or whatever? Or did you know that your child's physical education class, we really should be moving this many minutes, and we can't do that in a school day, so that's great if you can do this a little bit. Let's say you add 30 minutes after school. So what I'm saying is I think parents want to know, right? They want to learn. But if we're having the conversation as teachers, faculty, administrators among us all the time, then we're having the conversation with all of us that know. So share that and make that proponent. That's another thing the WSC does, right? So this outside of all the 10 components that are happening right here, this is the blue, those 10 components. This part right here is the community, right? So the community meeting, not just your school community, but outside of that, the parents, businesses that can support you. Maybe you've always wanted to have, a veggie garden. Well, find a business that can support that and provide resources and time and that sort of thing. So a lot of different ways that we can look at the WSC model. we really encourage you, start somewhere, right? One of the best things that I think you can do is look at your certified schools application and see, here's what we're doing great, so let's keep doing that. Let's make this kind of a highlight, right? Because if you go back to your school and you're like, well, guess what? We learned about the WSC model and we're not doing any of it. Well, they're going to be like, great, thanks. I appreciate that, right? Why not come in and say, you know what? I heard about this really great approach to learning, and we are really rocking in these areas. I'm telling you, we've got this figured out. We should tell people about how we're doing this. But there's a couple of areas that I think we could be better at, right? Like who would rather, I would rather work with someone that approached it that way than we're not doing right. We've got a checklist, let's get it done, right? So starting that conversation, and I know that's like I guess that's my word today, is starting the conversation. It's my phrase. But in looking at what does that look like for you? Some of your schools may really look at social and emotional climate. I know schools that we've been working with have said that is a need. Like we can no longer pretend like this isn't important, whether you have a full-time counselor or staff that looks at that, but we have to do something as the school and the community to address that. So maybe that's where you start, right? And that's one component. But once that one component is happening and working well and your committee's looking at it, that starts trickling around the circle in other areas, right? Now all of a sudden, that maybe the parents hear about what's happening and there is some family engagement. And maybe you touch a parent of a student that's been bullied and they're like, man, my kid loves to come to school now. What's going on? What's different? Oh, I want to be a part of that. So there really are, I think, some real practical components. But one of the things, and this is just kind of my own deal, but I really believe that we have to not forget about like the heart of what we do. So we know all the practical side. You can research this. I can tell you the textbook definition for health education and what it should be. But if it doesn't matter like at who we are that for our kids, then it's all just kind of this talk and like one more thing we need to do. But if you hear those stories about schools that have access to healthy fruits and vegetables, and that's the only time in a kid's life that they get them is during the school day, that matters, right? That talks to people. Businesses want to hear that. Like this kid never had a fresh apple until he came to school. This kid never got to have their own book until they left, to improve literacy. So those are the kind of things I think sometimes we forget about, especially as health professionals, because it's just kind of like, well, this is the information, let's just give the information. But I always think that for me, information goes better if you have a story with it. Something that really matters, right? Something that I'm more impacted by. All right, so this is a little bit more about the components. And like I said, if you're interested and your district's interested, you can contact me. We have a team of people now that are trained in giving these presentations, and we can come and talk more about that. If you know, we'd really like help with some of these components, we don't know where to get started, that's kind of a little bit more in-depth training that we can offer. But these are just the different components. So take a look and kind of assess your school and your community. Real quick, I want to give you a minute. Think about something you're doing well. You're doing it right. You feel good about it. Find that. And maybe it's more than one. What is it that makes that work? So somebody give me an idea. Somebody just say, we're doing this really well. This is where we need like an earphone to the other places, right? Talk amongst yourselves in other venues. Or anybody doing something great?
Social and emotional, we have counselors at every site that the kids can access by simply raising their hand and saying, I need to go see the counselor.
Okay, so she shared the social and emotional aspect. They have counselors at every site, and kids can just as much say, I need to go see the counselor, and that's able. So you're supporting that environment. So part of that are resources. Resources make that work, right? Like, if you have a counselor, some qualified adults who have been trained. That's also a key part of what we do, right? You have to have some quality educators. That's important. Anybody else have something that you think is going really well?
I think our lunch program is fabulous.
Lunch program. Okay, are you the nutrition person? Yes, the nutrition lady. Thank you. You should be proud of that.
But I don't think that I tell people that enough. I don't think they know that.
Okay, so she said also that the lunch program is fabulous at her school, but she may not share that enough. So think about ways to let people know, right? Newsletters. sometimes parents, I still like a piece of paper that's a newsletter in my kid's bag. Sometimes I don't get to the bag. But it could be social media. It could be telling the kids, like, did you know at your school that we get this, but not every kid in school gets this? And they feel really, my own kid's school, it's a smaller school, but the nutrition department, a lot of times they have fresh homemade everything, like things, whether it's cinnamon rolls, or whatever it is. And I've always said, do you know not every kid gets that? Like, stuff isn't just from this. But this is a privilege. Like, you need to tell Miss Marlene what a great job she's doing, or Miss Melinda, that this is awesome and that you love when you get fresh fruit, those kind of things. So that's a really good point. Brag about what you're doing well. Anybody else have something great going on?
Our social and emotional climate is really good. We're small and rural. We're like a family.
Okay.
So the kids feel safe. They want to be there. The staff wants to come. No one's walking around on eggshells, and it's just a positive environment.
Okay, so she's sharing that there's a positive environment, a small rural school, so the social and emotional climate is really good. Staff wants to be there. Kids want to be there. Just the environment. What do you think makes that happen? I know there's a lot that goes into it. Is there something that stands out?
I think the main thing is doing away with negativity. I've been there 13 years, and when I first came there, they would walk around to avoid a person, and you just have to eliminate that and say, no. Whether
Okay.
you're a janitor or a teacher, a parent, a student, you're going to feel blessed to be here.
Right. So she says eliminate the negativity, right? We can find negativity anywhere we look right now in education, right? Or the world. But if you really look at education, it's easy. So why not make it a place that says, let's find the good in this. Let's find what is working, right? Just kind of eliminating that and focusing on the positive. There's a lot of options. I'll share one that I know a school that we work with have changed just their big, huge fundraiser for the year. Instead of it being cookies or paper or whatever, they call it the Rocket Run. It's a unique environment. It's a small school. It's very well supported by the community, so I understand that. But it's something that changes. The whole school buys in. Every student, every staff, every community member, lots of communities give donations, and the students are active and moving. And we do a walk, or it's like this run, and school shuts down for the afternoon. They have a big thing about it, and it's really just a way to promote physical activity, right, while raising money. Because the real thing is, we've still got to raise money. We still need money for schools. That's it. All right, so I have a couple minutes left. Call to action. What do you do, right? Is one, you talk about what's going great. Be that champion and be the person that says, you know what, there are 10 components. I think maybe we're really just addressing one, but good, we've got one. So we only have 9 left. We know what's working in this one. Let's look at what we want to do next and kind of prioritize. One of the things you could do is the School Health Index is also supported now with the CDC. That may be a place to start, but I just can't tell you enough. If you're a certified healthy school, that application and the resources that they share there, if you are an incentive grantee and you've received the TSET incentive grants, that also, part of what they expect, will help promote what you're doing with WSC. So ABC, right, as easy as that. Adopt as many of the components as you can, right? That's important. We talked a lot about that. B is be the change. So again, even if you have to fake it for a while, right? I tell my PE teachers that a lot. You've got to be silly. If you're teaching elementary PE, you may not really love elementary kids, and you may not think being silly is fun. But if you don't act like you're silly and fun and all of that, they're not going to buy into one thing you're saying. I promise. Act silly and crazy, and they will walk on water for you, right? So be the change. It's true, right? Recommending health standards, setting a wellness policy, things that you talked about today. And then finally, connect and develop partnerships. So whether it's with other communities outside of your own, but with other businesses, support the State Department of Education, the State Department of Health, our city, county health educators, lots of great resources. Find who that is and how they can support you. If I can be of help, I'm happy to. We have the WSC Institute at UCO. I just coordinate that, but that's kind of a volunteer thing. So I'll do as much as I can. My main job is UCO and teaching, but we have that. We also have a WSC guide that is on wisc.health.ok.gov. So there's this presentation, something similar to that. The WSC guide that says, here is each component, and here's how you can start to, one, understand what it is, and two, start developing a plan to move forward. All right, and then there's the references and then the contact information. Some of you may know Erica Johnson. She's the coordinator for health improvement systems for the OSDH, and she's also plays a big role. She works with our OHIP committee and would be a great point of reference for you as well. So thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed being here. Let me know if I can help.